England Rugby Depth Chart for 2025, folks. It was a pretty good year for Steve Borthwick in charge of England. Didn't win the Six Nations, but still had a pretty good showing. Despite Lions tour disruptions, had a very successful tour of Argentina, winning both their games there, played the US as well, and then finished the year strong, including a win over my All Blacks. So they're on quite the winning run, up to third in the world. Let's have a look at what Steve Borthwick has been up to with his selections, which players have been given which game time, and we'll see if we can draw some conclusions about what he has been up to. We've already done this with the Springboks and the All Blacks if you want to check them out for comparison to see what Razor and Russie has been doing, because each coach has got their own thing. But England's example, as I said, is quite different in that they are forced to give a lot of the youngsters, and it is a young squad this year, a chance with the absence of your big guns who were off in Australia with the Lions tour. We'll start with, and I should say I didn't include any England A games, it's just England for this. Loosehead prop, Ellis Genge, Finn Baxter and Bevan Rodd. Those are your three guys. There's no Joe Marler in 2025, so that is an absence of some experience and some game time minutes, which we saw in 2024, which don't carry over to this year. But I think you'd still be pretty happy with how things have gone. Like Finn Baxter's he's had a hell of a year. He's still a very young man as well. Like he's only going to get better. Props kind of age into their roles. And Finn Baxter's only, 23? He looks even younger. So him alongside the veteran and Genji and then Bevan Rodd as your kind of distant third choice. I think you'd be reasonably happy with how the loosehead side has gone. Hooker is a little bit more on the kind of veteran side with the majority of the game time going to Cowan Dickey and Jamie George. There's a distance between them and the third choice guy who's Curtis Langdon, and then Theo Dan, and then a handful of minutes to Gabriel Ogra there as well. So it might be nice to see one of the younger guys in the kind of medium to long term start to get some more minutes, but at the moment it is still the two veterans in Cowan Dickey and George who are trusted by Coach Borthwick, remembering that George was called up late to the Lions tour and Cowan Dickey went on the Lions tour as well. Tighthead, again, it's a similar situation to Loosehead with one of your veterans retiring. So Dan Kolb, he's off. He was, I think, your second choice tighthead prop last year. I think the guys have stepped up pretty well. Joe Hayes has been your first choice, ever so slightly ahead of Will Stewart. Unfortunately, Will Stewart's now injured, so he's going to miss the start of next season, which is a real disappointment because he has been going well. Went on the Lions tour too. But then that is potentially a chance for Asher Apokofajua to get some more game time. He's there as your third choice guy. And I quite like that breakdown of first choice, second choice, third choice, all getting a decent run. Like Apokofajua to get around a fifth of the game time is quite nice. Trevor Davison is there as your kind of token minutes guy, but Apokofajua is only like 21? So between him and Finn Baxter, you've got some youngsters who could develop into even better players than they are now. I will note they haven't come up against the Boks in a while. That'll be a good test because I thought the All Blacks had a pretty decent scrum and then we came up against the Boks and things didn't go that well for our lads. Locks is one of the more interesting changes with the Lions tour because both of your main guys went off on Lions tour, so had vastly reduced minutes to what we otherwise would have seen. Loosehead lock like Maro in 2024 literally had 100% of the game time. Nobody else got a look in. This year, Maro for England is down to 60% of the game time. So it did mean other guys got a chance. Charlie Ewells, Alex Coles, and even a little bit of Chandler Cunning himself there with some minutes on the loosehead side of the second row. Maro did have one game on the bench this year towards the end of the year. So it wasn't just because he was unavailable with the Lions. Like Borthwick did give a little bit of rotation going, which I think is good because in previous years he's been more of a consistency guy. But yeah, Itoje getting 60% of the minutes is potentially no surprise. It would have been 70, 80+% if Itoje had not been off with the Lions. Absolutely. Tight headlock is a lot more of a mix. Like nobody even gets 50% of the game time. Ollie Chisholm, a Lion again, is on there as your main guy. Alex Coles appears on this side of the second row as well. He's your second choice. And then George Martin is a guy whose numbers have dropped drastically from 2024. He and Itoje were absolutely the first choice pairing in 2024, but it's been a lot more mixed in 2025. From memory, George Martin spent much of the season injured. Otherwise, his stocks probably don't fall that much. Arthur Clark also got to go. But yeah, it's been a little bit more of a revolving door. Again, not always by choice with Lion selection and whatnot. But again, in terms of depth building, I don't think that's a particularly bad thing. We'll be able to get a better read on the locking stocks next year once Borthwick's able to pick things a bit more consistently. But it's probably going to be Itoje and Chesham, I would imagine. Loose forwards is quite interesting because there's definitely a trend of Borthwick picking kind of mobile, hard tackling, high work rate loose forwards in all three positions, really. 6, 7, and 8. I mean, it goes with the kicking game in terms of wanting guys who are going to be able to chase those kicks, push kick takers backwards, potentially win penalties at the breakdown, just make life miserable for the recipients, and be able to defend, wave after wave of attack. That's how he selects his loose forwards. Like blindside, Tom Curry, Guy Pepper, Ben Curry. Those are your first three choice guys, all really hard, high tackling, high work rate players. Like Guy Pepper has had quite a debut season. He kind of gets overshadowed by Pollock, but Guy Pepper's had a heck of a season alongside the Curry boys on blindside. I mean, Cunningham South was your kind of first choice 6 last year, but his stocks have dropped quite a lot in favour, as I said, of those more kind of high tackling machine players. Ted Hill's also, he's always the odd man out, isn't he? He's got 26 minutes or something, 27? I feel sorry for Ted Hill because he's a good player too. Open side, similar story, and there's no front runner at all. Like Underhill, Ben Curry, Ben Earl, Guy Pepper, Henry Pollock, all really, as I said, high work rate guys. None of them get the job permanently. Like 29% for Sam Underhill's the most. So if anything, that's a lack of consistency. But as a unit, I feel like they're kind of consistent, if not by jersey number, if you know what I mean. Like so many of these guys appear in multiple different jersey numbers in that back row. And then number 8, Ben Earl, Tom Willis. Tom Willis is one that's a bit of an exception because he's going off to France, so he won't be selected anymore. But Ben Earl, Tom Willis, Henry Pollock, Cunningham South, Don Brandt, whose stocks have fallen a lot in recent years, and then Ben Curry and Sam Underhill in token minutes would have been coverage towards the end of games with cards or injuries and whatnot. But yeah, Ben Earl certainly has the main lock on number 8, and Tom Curry the main lock on number 6. But as I said, most of these guys interchange between different positions pretty frequently. Sometimes even within a match. Like what match was it? It was Willis and Pollock, I think. They were like swapping positions. I think it was against Wales, depending on whether it was a Welsh scrum feed or an English scrum feed. So Borthwick does get creative. Like he puts some of these back rowers in the midfield towards the end of the games. But because he's kind of a monotone, for want of a better word, boring northerner, he doesn't really get much credit for that kind of thing. If he was a sexy Frenchman or an Italian, maybe he'd be getting more. But I don't know. That is just kind of is what that is. Halfback, or scrum half, Alex Mitchell. Another Lion, no surprise. He was the first choice guy by a long way last year. He is the first choice guy by a long way this year as well. Ben Spencer, Van Portfleet, and Randall are your other 3 guys. Capable replacements for sure, but Alex Mitchell streets ahead under Borthwick. And then number 10 is an interesting one because that's changed. Marcus Smith has gone from being a 10 under Borthwick last year as your first choice 10 to your fullback this year. I know he's played fullback under Borthwick before, but I wouldn't say it was his preferred position. It was kind of, he can play fullback. But this year it's back to George Ford, who had quite a good year, really. He always gets the snub on Lions selection. Finn Smith, who did go on the Lions tour, and Marcus Smith, who did go on the Lions tour, are your other 2 guys there. Would they have seen George Ford out if they hadn't gone on the Lions tour? Maybe, but either way, George Ford playing the way he did over in Argentina certainly led him to being your first choice 10 for England, so he is there with about half the game time. Charlie Atkinson did also make his debut this year for England as well, so you have had 4 guys play a bit at 10. And then the midfield has had so many guys have a turn. Fraser Dingwall at inside centre. He's your leading guy, but even he has like less than 40% of the minutes, but he is up from being your third choice guy last year. So he's come up in the ranks. Henry Slade is still there. He's kind of always there or thereabouts as one of those veteran guys. And then Max Ajomo, I think only got the 2 games, right? He debuted against England, and then he was a late replacement in that last game that England played in November, but had a heck of a game. He's a guy you might like to see a bit more of at 12. Then you've also had Seb Atkinson, as I mentioned, Ben Earl, Alex Dombrant, and a touch of Ollie Lawrence. So that's what I'm talking about. He puts his midfielders there towards the end of the games. Well, he puts his loose forwards there towards the end of games. Not much, but if needed in a pinch, he has got that option. And then outside centre, Ollie Lawrence has shifted from his main role as a 12 last year for England to a 13, which you feel like works quite well. He's been far and away your dominant selection, followed by Slade, Northmore, Freeman, Daly, Dingwall, Beard, Murley, and Atkinson, like Seb Atkinson. There's been a whole bunch of guys with 9 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 18 minutes. But Ollie Lawrence, who's going to pair him going forward? Should it be Max Ajomo? Some people have suggested that. Or do they stick with Dingwall? Does Freeman operate better in the midfield or on the wing? I feel like on the wing, but who knows? We'll leave it to Borthwick, that sexy man with his creativity. Give the guy some credit. Left wing, Manny Feiwa-Bosso, Ollie Slightholme, Elliot Daly. Geez, these guys have all had 20-odd% of the game time. Feiwa-Bosso does kind of lead the way. I seem to remember he had a long suspension during this year, so otherwise might have had increased minutes. Caden Murley, Will Muir, and then Henry Arundel with a bit of a kind of cameo at the end of the year. He's only like 23, despite having spent a bit of time in France. So you've got plenty of options on the wing. And then right wing, Tom Roebuck fits in with the aerial selection well. Like if you want a guy to chase high balls and, work hard, fits that selection really well. Tommy Freeman's been more of a right winger this year than a left winger because he was kind of splitting between the two last year. And then Feiwa-Bosso has played a bit of the right wing as well. And then fullback is interesting because Marcus Smith has gone from being, as I said, the kind of guy who fills in at fullback as your third choice to being your first choice fullback in 2025. He's played almost half the game time. Then there's Freddie Stewart, Joe Carpenter, and a few minutes of Elliot Daly as well. But we've got to keep in mind George Furbank has spent pretty much the entire year unavailable, which otherwise might have had a say because he was your first choice guy last year as well. So it's an interesting one with him because, like I said, the squad is young. Part of it's the Lions tour. A bunch of guys get who are the debutants? Pollock, Murley, Pepper, Northmore, Carpenter, Clark, Ajomo, Ogra, Charlie Atkinson, Oscar Beard, a bunch of debutants this year who otherwise wouldn't have all got their debuts. Some of them would have. But the Lions tour certainly forced that. But it means the average age of the squad is 26, 27. Pretty young. Younger than the French, younger than the All Blacks, younger than the Irish. The South Africans are averaging 31. I mean, you're still your veterans. There's still the two hookers, Cowan-Dickie and George. There's still your Toje. There's still the Curry lads. And there's still, George Ford. There's still Henry Slade. There's a bunch of veterans who've played a heap of caps. Sam Underhill, who are still knocking about. But impressively, Finn Baxter, Asher Bokopajua, there's a good mix of youth and experience in this English squad. I feel like a decent amount to get excited about. And that's despite the fact we've had the retirements of Marler and Kerr and Cole and whatnot along the way. Interestingly, Borthwick's one of the few coaches who kept unused substitutes in 2025 as well. Most coaches clear the bench at some point, even if it's a minute or two to go. But we had, I think, at least 3 guys ride the pine the entire game. Full-time whistle blows. Some guys didn't get off the bench, which is unusual. Pretty unusual. Overall, it's a kind of more rotated squad than what we've seen from Borthwick before. I think last year his starters were getting 60% of the game time. This year the starters are down to 43, but as I said, Lions tour. We cannot underestimate how much effect that had on England's selections. But I think it's a good thing. I think Borthwick's built some depth. When they play South Africa next year, that's going to be a massive, massive test, because England are certainly a team tracking in absolutely the right direction, but how do they go against the Bok boys? Be one to see. Six Nations, obviously, before that. They'll be looking to make a statement there. But yeah, if you guys want to get some England gear, if you enjoyed the video, want to deck yourself out with some England gear, maybe in time for Christmas, check out England Rugby Store down in the description. They are an affiliate of the channel, so if you use the link, it tells them 2 cents sent you. If you did enjoy the video, check out the England Rugby Store, get yourself some gear, like the video, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the data. I enjoyed preparing it. England were an interesting one. Sexy Steve Borthwick. You guys take care, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.